Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ruby, this is Ruby Red, and today we're doing kind of a catch-up wrap-up, if you will. I hardly know where to begin here today. Basically, I haven't done a wrap-up in almost 4 months, and there have been a lot of books in that time, and I just wasn't feeling up to filming. I didn't want to do it. I got bogged down by a couple of other things in my life, and anyway, we're here now, so let's try to make up for lost time. In the last 4 months, I have finished 25 books, so that's a lot, in my opinion. Feels like a lot, and I don't want to talk about them all right now in depth. 5 of them are for a different project I'm working on, so there's going to be a video about them coming later, probably next month. So I will not be talking about them. That leaves us still with 20 books, so I'm actually only going to be going over the 9 of those that I gave 4 stars. And we'll just leave it at that. There are 9 also that I gave 3 stars, and then there's 1 2-star and 1 that I haven't rated, and I just don't know how to rate, so I'm just not going to. So yeah, let's get into it. I have a list here. In April, I read The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. I gave that 4 stars. And this is a book about clones, and there was a lot of philosophical discussion kind of happening. It is a mystery thriller. We have a main character who works in clones. Maybe she's like a clone pioneer, and the setup is that she thinks her husband might be cheating on her, and somehow she finds out that he has this other house. So she goes over to the other house and knocks on the door, and who answers but a clone of herself. And then it kind of spirals from there, and we get into some very philosophical discussions about like the ethics of cloning, which I don't know how much science was really in this book, like how much research and how much imagination were like combined to create this scenario. But I have to say, Sarah Gailey just writes the most messed up characters. Like, the narrator of this was so unlikable. I don't remember her name, but I remember that I hated her. But I still was really invested in the story, and I loved reading it. And I think that is one of Sarah Gailey's strengths as a writer, is writing these intensely unlikable characters that you still somehow are rooting for. Next, in April, I finished The Mastermind, Drugs, Empire, Murder, Betrayal by Evan Ratliff. I listened to this audiobook. I had a great time. Obviously, gave 4 stars. I think this was my first time dipping my toes back into true crime. I used to be all about it, really, really into it, and then I didn't read any for a while, so this was me like getting back to it, I guess. And I really did love it. It was fascinating. I mean, it really was an empire of betrayal and drugs and what else did I say? Murder? Yeah. Just a really complex network of lies and drugs and betrayal and murder. This criminal, Paul LaRue, ran this like online drug empire, but then sort of branched out into a lot of other types of crime. And so this is like a journalistic breakdown of the whole thing. And it was just some of the things that this LaRue character got up to. I was like, how do you even think to do something that, like, anyway. There's a lot of neighbors walking around out there. So yeah, that's the best I can do for that. Okay, now we're moving into May. I read 3 4-star books in May. The first one was An Unwanted Guest by Shari, Lapena. This is my first book by this author. I listened to the audiobook and I loved it. It was like an isolated mystery sort of situation. I think I maybe said something about this in one of my TBR videos, but it was just an excellently executed thriller. you know, unreliable narration, or just like characters that you knew you couldn't trust, but it's like, I don't trust any of them, so who am I actually not supposed to trust? And murders, and just like trying to piece together who was where at what time and who, you know, could have done it, basically. It's just like very puzzly, very Agatha Christie, I think. 4 stars only because this is one of those where I don't think you could figure it out. It's not like you couldn't pick up the clues and put it together, because there was information that you don't have until the big reveal at the end. So I don't love that. Anyway, up next I finished The 100 Years' War in Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. This was a nonfiction book. I read it for my real life book club. This book is just a pretty excellent breakdown of 100 Years of War. The biggest thing that I took from reading this book was backstory and understanding of how conflicts and laws and wars can layer on each other to create new conflicts, and how things sort of build up and spiral. I don't know, I think that this is a great book to read if you are interested in understanding the conflict between Israel and Palestine more deeply, because there's a lot there, and I had been just trying to piece things together from social media and like reading articles, and I really wasn't getting anywhere. So this book gave me a lot of foundational knowledge that I really appreciated. The next book I finished in May and gave 4 stars was Fahrenheit 451 by Annie Spence, right? Annie Spence. Huge tone shift right now, because this book was adorable. It was so sweet, so cute, so much fun. Oh my god, I listened to the audiobook and I loved it, and if you love books, you should also read it, because I think you'll love it. The concept is that the author, who is a librarian and a lover of books, writes letters to books. Dear Fahrenheit 451, etc. And some of them are books that she loved in her past, you know, as a kid, and some of them are, you know, books that she sees on bookshelves at dinner parties, or a book that gets a lot of circulation at the library, or books that don't get very much circulation at the library. And just like, some of the letters are very long and heartfelt. There's a lot of Jeffrey Eugenides fangirling in this book, so if you're into that, which I am, you will relate to Annie on several levels, I think. But yeah, it was just really cute, lighthearted read. So fun, but yeah, pretty nostalgic. And I hadn't read all the books that she talked about, but I still loved pretty much every moment of it. Yeah. Okay, now we're in June. Wow. In June, I gave 4 stars to Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is a romance. It's from a series that is extremely popular, especially on BookTube right now. Dani Brown, who is the younger sister of the main character of the first book in the series, sort of enters into this fake relationship with this hot security guard at her college. There's like an incident, and there are photos popping up online of like the two of them looking quite lovey-dovey. They do both have a secret crush on the other. And then for like some contrived and convoluted reason, they decide to just like pretend that they're dating. And then obviously they both want to be real dating. But this was just like really sweet. Another romance where we have a male love interest who is so emotionally mature and aware, and I love that. Yeah, it was just sweet and a little bit spicy. Next, I gave 4 stars to Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors by Sonali Dev. I listened to this audiobook and I loved it so much. I loved it so much. Actually, why did I only give this 4 stars? I should have given this 5 stars. Now that I'm thinking about it, did something happen? Like, why didn't I give it 5 stars? This is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. It takes place in or around San Francisco, and we have, you know, our Darcy and Lizzie Bennet enemies to lovers arc, and there were a lot of the same side characters, side arcs. There's a Wickham, there's the other guy, and the family and all that. So our main character, Trisha Rajay, who is actually the Darcy character, is like a neurosurgeon, and then our Lizzie Bennet is DJ, who is a chef who is maybe starting his catering business, and they have, you know, they have a lot of other, they're interacting in a lot of different ways in different capacities, so they have to just like keep having these run-ins, and they both just catch each other like at the absolute wrong moment over and over again. They misunderstand each other. They're both proud and prejudiced, and it was excellent. It was really fast paced. There's a lot going on. I mean, there's kind of a lot going on in Pride and Prejudice anyway, and this is just like everything is just amped up a little bit. And I really liked that this story mostly seemed to be told from Trish's perspective, which in Pride and Prejudice you're really getting Lizzie's perspective, so we're just sort of flipped. And I thought that that was very valuable. Yeah, and you know, happily ever after, obviously, Pride and Prejudice, you know how it ends, so I loved that. I loved that book. Specifically the first proposal in Pride and Prejudice, like that scene in this book had me like, I had to sit down. The amount of secondhand embarrassment that I was feeling for Trish, I was losing it. Oh my god, just thinking about it now, I'm like, ah. Because yeah, I spent only a couple of days listening to this, and I just like, I couldn't put it down. I should have given this 5 stars. I take back what I said. I'm gonna change my Goodreads rating. I loved this book so much. Okay, and then the third 4-star I gave out in June was The Meaning of Human Existence by Edward O. Wilson. This is a nonfiction book. I was reading it for months, but I did finally finish it in June. It's sort of just like science meets philosophy, trying to answer the question, why are we here? And it was fascinating. There were a couple of different ways of like looking at the question and analyzing stuff, and there was some evolutionary biology and also just like alien theories. I don't know. It was really fascinating read. I'm interested in reading more by E.O. Wilson for sure, because he's a celebrated biologist. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that book was really impactful, but I'm having trouble figuring out how to even talk about it, so I'm honestly just not going to say anything else. Great book, 4 stars. Loved it. Wow, and then the only 4-star book that I read in July was The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I should look up how to say his name. Anyway, this is by the same author as The Silent Patient, which is a thriller that I really liked last year. This is also a thriller, but it's strongly a marriage of Bunny by Mona Awad and The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Like, so hard is it a combination of those 2 books, which is good because I loved both of those books and I did really like this book, but I just think like if you have read either of those 2 recently, you should wait before you read this. And also there was a little bit of a Silent Patient crossover kind of a deal. Like one of the characters from The Silent Patient was in this book, and then is like, you connect the dots a little bit. So that was kind of a fun thing. And yeah, what is it actually about though? You're asking me? It's a twisty, turny kind of a mystery. We have our main character, name I don't remember. She's recently widowed. She runs a group therapy practice. And she has a niece who she's sort of like a surrogate mother towards. Her niece is at college, and there's a brutal murder on campus. And so she goes to visit the college. It's her alma mater. She goes and basically ends up getting involved in trying to solve the murder because there's some really suspicious things going on. There's a group of classics students with the classics professor, and that's all kind of suspicious. There's also there's an amount of talk of Greek myths and rituals and goddesses that I found really interesting. So if you're into Greek stuff, there's that. Yeah, so it really took me by surprise. I didn't see it coming, but it just felt like a little bit too derivative for me to give it 5 stars. So I didn't. I gave it 4 stars. And I do really recommend it, but just something wasn't quite right for me. But anyway, that brings us to the end of July. That's the last 4-star book that I read as of right now. So I'm not really sure what form wrap-ups are going to take in the future, because I mean, I like talking about books that I hated as much as I like talking about books I love, and I think I don't want to be making any like really long videos. Like, I think that this is going to be kind of a long video and I don't love making those. I just end up getting really behind with editing it. Like, it just intimidates me, and then I scrap the video. So we don't want that. So I don't know what I'm going to do going forward. I will figure it out when I have to. I might be browsing a little bit, taking a little bit more note of how other booktubers do their wrap-ups. But yeah, I'm gonna figure out a way that is better for me to talk about the books that I read. I'm gonna link my previous wrap-ups playlist below so you can see what this video usually looks like if you want. And that's it. So thank you so much for stopping by. If you're not subscribed and you want to hit that subscribe so that you can find out what form these videos take the next time I do one, that would be much appreciated. So that's all I've got. Thank you so much for being here today, and I will see you later.